Joining us this morning is Luis Dumlao, economist at the Ateneo de Manila University. Good to have you back on, Luis. Welcome back.
Thank you for having
to the
me.
program. So what do you
Yes.
make of that weakening trend in the peso? We've seen it open a tad stronger at about 59.39, but we kind of chased the intraday high yesterday at 59.50.
It's scary because it's psychological, because it's near a threshold of 60 pesos per dollar that puts some pressure on it. But if you look at the bigger picture, the peso is gaining strength elsewhere across against the top traded currency in ASEAN, the Sing dollars, against the top traded currency in Asia, the Japanese yen, against the second top traded currency in the world, against the euro. Of course, the top is the U.S. dollars. So it's across the board. So it's the famous politician said it's not the peso weakening, but it's the dollar strengthening.
But is it? I mean, there are a lot of drivers when you take a look at Trump's tariffs, Greenland, and the invasion or, the chaos in Venezuela. So that's one. And the other side is the governance risks in the Philippines. So how do we tease that out?
It's a general trend we've been seeing the past decade, that whenever there's uncertainty, whether it comes from the U.S. or elsewhere, the tendency for everyone around the world is to hedge and put their currency and asset in dollars, and that's why it's getting stronger. The dollar is getting stronger.
Right.
Yes.
A haven bid, you mean?
Yes.
But let's just for a moment focus on what happened yesterday, chasing an intraday high. Two stops there of intraday highs just before noon, and it happens just after the impeachment complaint had been filed. To what extent is that the reason why there had been that kind of a selling in the currency markets?
It's more than anything else. It's a noise. And it is psychological because, again, it is near the 60 pesos per dollar and it is record high. But other than that, it's across, what the numbers would say, more dollars come in than go out. 2025, but yeah, all theory would say that the peso would move sideways.
All right, well, granted that the peso would move sideways, we're still at a weakening trend, and we're nearing senior citizenship, as I'd like to often joke. What then would make you say that this is no longer an export competitiveness story, but a financial stability risk issue that impacts inflation, corporate bonds, or maybe even sovereign risks?
Okay, so if you look at what is referred to as the purchasing power parity theory, international finance, I'm going to tell you about my age. When I was in high school, I never thought I'd see the day that inflation in the Philippines would be lower than that in the U.S. I never thought it would happen in my lifetime. You know what happened? Our inflation is lower than that in the U.S., Europe, Japan, all at the same time. How about that? And that's why, theoretically, it doesn't make sense for the peso to weaken.
But it is.
Yes. Again, there is a noise. But so in the long run, it should move sideways, at least what that theory says.
All right. Well, the governor right now has got his hands tied. He's seeing that the peso is weakening near 60. Do you think he's going to make a run for it and just cut by 25 bips on February 19th?
There are two things, right? So GDP we are at negative output gap. So there is room for lower interest rates. Yeah. And the second one is inflation is, although albeit people complain about it, but it's very low right now. It's below the target. So there is room for inflation, for policy rates to go down. It would probably not go in favor of the peso, but that's not the priority of the BSP. The priority of BSP is inflation targeting.
Yeah, but we don't have inflation. I mean, you say people are complaining, but then we've got it at 1.7,
that's
and
the
you
point.
even have your forecast at 1.4.
That's the point. By easing, my 1.4% baseline inflation for 2026 is if nothing else changes. That's precise. That's why it will probably be higher precisely because the BSP will probably lower the interest rates.
So he's hard carrying the economy now. I mean, you know, he's got to let the fiscal side do its job, right? I mean, he's been cutting. So it gives the impression that, you know, he's
The fiscal side has no more.
hand carrying
The fiscal
the
side
whole
has,
economic
yeah.
growth story.
Yeah, but the fiscal side has, it's no longer spend more, but control the spending. Because right now, the expenditure, government expenditure to GDP is about 22%, which is as if it's spending as if we are still in pandemic, and we are way past pandemic. If my thinking is the official pandemic ended in 2022, and expenditure then relative to GDP was 22%. That was fine. It was it's the humanitarian thing to do to help people who have lost uh, uh, their living, right? So, but we're past pandemic, so these things has to be controlled. The spending.
Yeah, because at sub 25, when you compare us with the rest of the ASEAN, we're so much lower. When you
Lower
in terms of GDP investment
Yes,
to GDP.
it's lower GDP.
So that means how are we going to be able to reach 5.5 to 6% growth with reduced spending or spending like we're
No.
doing it during the pandemic?
I'm not saying we should be reducing spending, but the spending should, it's either, I'm not supporting austerity of some nature, but rather to control the spending. Not to reduce the spending, but to keep it where it is as a percentage of GDP.
How so? With 6.793 approved in the national budget this year?
So obviously that's not a good start. So if we're gonna grow, if the spending is gonna grow by 6.7%, and GDP is projected to increase by about 5.8, so obviously less than the increase in expenditure. That means the expenditure relative to GDP is going to increase, and that's not. JFK once said, "The time to fix the roof is when the sun is shining. The finance sun is shining. We should be fixing it, and we are not."
Okay, well, let me ask you then about that gap, because you said you expected fourth quarter GDP to come in at 4% for 2025,
Yes,
and then a big jump of 5.6% of a full year growth forecast for this year.
5.8%.
How are we going to get there then? 5.8%
Yes,
even.
yes. It's one of those mean reversion. So eventually, if we just do everything normally, just don't do anything differently, just show up to a baseline, economy would go back to the equilibrium or steady state or potential growth, which is 6.1%.
Well, let's talk about the key drivers there. Consumers, for instance, let's pick up from the OFWs for a moment, because it's just so important. With the peso falling to a record and hitting records, you would expect that the OFWs would get more bang out of their buck sending money home. But then the November data shows that it's come to a 6-month low. So what does that say about our OFWs? Kind of like saving the day.
It has been in absolute value in terms of dollars. It has been growing to what, 32 billion, 33 billion dollars per year. In terms of growth, it's for the past 5-8 years, it's been 3% growth, which is very low by this compared to the standards of the 20,000s when it used to grow by 20%. So that means we are becoming less reliant on them. We still need them. We're not going to belittle the need for OFW remittance, but somewhere out there's a puzzle out there that somehow more dollars come in than go out. The net factor income from abroad continues to increase by more than 20% per year. That means there's somewhere out there, there's a new phenomenon. It would be probably the retirees, what I refer to as the WA TERS people who filed the W-8 file to make money, doing secretarial work here for American business and then getting remittance. So we have all these and then you have the remote intelligence work here and then getting remittance coming home here. So there's something out there, but it's no longer the OFW per se.
Or maybe something closer to home here when you talk about the consumer. I know that you cited as a concern consumer credit, which was picking up mid of last year. How is it looking right now with household debt? I mean, when you look at the non-performing loans, it doesn't seem like it's of concern because it's easing. But people, are they able to pay their debt, giving a slowing economy?
It's the aggregation is that it is spiking, and it didn't spike the spike didn't start last year. It started about 5 years ago. Double-digit increases, 5 years in a row. It's spiking, it's spiking. The good news is it is still less than 1 billion pesos. And that is less than 1% of GDP. So even if that hypothetical thing that all of these default, the financial system would still be okay. But what's happening that we don't see is what's happening in the rural sector. People borrowing at 30%, 36% per year interest rates. No, they're not going to lose their houses. They're going to lose their credit card. Because that's credit card or the pangtawid card, because that's been used as collateral. No, they're not going to lose their house. The financial system is going to be fine. But as far as the household in that poor sector is concerned, that's a major pain. And so that's where we should be, in a sense, losing sleep from the fact that these poor people are suffering.
All right. Well, I'd rather hold to the optimism in your narrative. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Luis Dumlao. Appreciate it. Of Ateneo de Manila University.